Chapter 11. The next couple of weeks were busy for all of them, especially Randy, and for that he was glad. The Ohio State Double Dutch Championships were held on a Saturday in Columbus. Teams from all over Ohio and a few from just across the river in Kentucky met for the competition. It was just like the national finals in intensity, only smaller. The huge gym was filled with crisply ironed t-shirts, frantic practice jumps in the halls and parking lot, and the electric excitement of competition and challenge. Randy could tell Bomani really appreciated the help, as Randy had made sure everyone was accounted for on the bus to Columbus and at the gym. When they got there, it was Randy's job to help collect tickets at the door, pass out programs, and sell souvenirs. Later, he helped out as a timer, a scorekeeper, and a counter during the speed jumps. Randy ironed t-shirts, kept up with the third graders, and made sure everybody had lunch tickets. The high school gym they used was noisy, crowded, and not air-conditioned, so it was Randy's job to make sure all jumpers from Cincinnati had water. He made sure all the judges had pencils and plenty of score sheets. At the end of the day, he was exhausted, but relieved to have been so busy. It kept his mind off his father. Randy noticed there were a number of boys who were jumpers on the various teams from across the state. They were muscular, athletic, and always good crowd pleasers as they did their jumps, especially in the speed and freestyle events. He had considered jumping on a team a couple of years ago, but he liked his role now, the second in command in charge of whatever was needed. It made him feel useful. Randy knew the procedure in his sleep. It was the same in all competitions. The singles compulsory, time jumps, and freestyle, beginning with the youngest jumpers and continuing to the oldest competitors, followed by the doubles competitions. Sometimes the whole thing got on his nerves because it took all day, but he liked the tight feeling of anticipation that grabbed him every time the jumpers on their team picked up the ropes. Everybody felt it as they waited their turn to be called, nervously watching the others and cheering for those who did outstanding performances. At last the call was made for 8th grade singles freestyle jumpers. Delia, Charlene, and Yolanda walked like professionals to their places, heads held high, absolute confidence on their faces. Delia glanced at Randy just before the buzzer sounded and grinned. They completed their routine with gymnastic twists and elastic leaps. At one point, Yolanda, who was turning, tossed her end of the rope to Charlene, who grabbed it while she was still jumping, and in one turn of the ropes, Charlene moved effortlessly from jumper to turner, the rhythm of the ropes never stopping. Delia then tossed her end and completed the same move so that each person had changed positions, but the ropes never faltered. Beauty in motion, Randy whispered, shaking his head. Yolanda, Delia, and Charlene completed the routine perfectly, ending with the three of them doing a jumping bow in perfect synchronization before the judges' table. The whole routine got a standing ovation from the crowd. Bomani cheered with approval, even though he was not really supposed to. When the results were tallied at the end of the very long day, the Queen Bees, the Junior Bees, and the Little Bees all scored well and got selected to go on to the national finals, called World Championships, because the teams from several countries competed as well. Delia and her group had scored exceptionally high, with their singles freestyle taking them over the top. The following week, the busy schedule showed no signs of slowing. Double Dutch practice was now every day after school in preparation for the upcoming World Championships. Randy and the rest of his group from English class had met at Yolanda's house, where they wrote the script, and they had all gone to Delia's house several times, where they videotaped sections of their skit. Randy was glad he had so much to do. It made the silent, lonely nights at home easier to bear. His food supply had just about disappeared once more. A little peanut butter, some cheese, no cat food. He got free lunch at school. There were usually snacks available after Double Dutch practice, and he enjoyed working on the English project with Yolanda and Delia because they ordered pizza, or one of their mothers would fix them something to eat. But by the following Saturday, Randy had come to the end of all his money and all the food he had in the house. He knew what he had to do. He sighed, looked at the VCR under the television, and unplugged it. The cat looked at him curiously as he wrapped the cord around the VCR and headed slowly for the door. He remembered when they had gotten the VCR. It was the best Christmas they'd ever had. He opened the door of Clifford's pawn shop around the corner and set the VCR on the counter. Mr. Clifford, a skinny, wrinkled man with a cigar stuck in one corner of his mouth and glasses perched on the end of his nose, eyed Randy suspiciously. "This is not stolen," Randy began as he walked toward the counter. "I shouldn't have to explain myself, but I guess you get all kinds in here. This belongs to me and my father, and I need some money. My dad is, sick. and we're short on cash. How much can I get for this?" The old man said nothing at first. He looked at Randy with narrowed eyes, staring intently through the purple-rimmed glasses on his nose, apparently evaluating the situation. "How much you need?" he finally asked. "Huh?" Randy was a little surprised. "I thought you'd offer me what you think it's worth." "If I did that, I'd give you about $15, replied the owner. "How much you need?" he repeated. Randy thought for a minute. $50 will hold me, us, for a little while. I'll give the folks at the electric company $20 and I'll keep the rest for food." "Your daddy on drugs?" the owner asked. "What? No, sir. I told you my father is sick. Really sick." Randy bowed his head and sighed. He felt sick himself at that moment. He was tired of being alone, tired of making do, tired of pretending that everything was all right when nothing could be further from the truth. "I know your daddy, Winston Youngblood. You look just like him." Mr. Clifford kept staring at Randy. "Ain't seen him around here lately." Randy's head jerked up. "You know my daddy? How?" "Seen him around the neighborhood. He don't come in here much, but I know who he is." "Is everything okay, son?" Mr. Clifford's eyes softened a bit. His voice seemed to offer understanding. Randy was about to cry. He missed his dad so much. "Yeah, everything's fine," he forced himself to say. "Dad's just been sick. He can't work, and I'm trying to help out, that's all." Mr. Clifford took the VCR and put it behind the counter. He continued to look at Randy very closely. "Giving the electric company $20 is like spitting in the ocean. Won't do much good," he said finally. Randy sighed again. "I know, but last night when she called me for the 4th or 5th time, the lady from the electric company told me if I gave them a small payment, she'd keep the lights on for another 2 weeks. I'm sure my dad will be better by then," Randy told him. Mr. Clifford said nothing, but turned to the cash register and took out some cash. He gave Randy a pink form. "Fill this out for me. Don't leave nothing blank." Randy obeyed, trembling a little from nervousness and a little from hunger. He had 87 cents in his pocket. Mr. Clifford took the form, looked at it carefully, and tossed it in a shoebox on the counter. "I have examined this VCR very closely," he said, although Randy knew he had only glanced at it, "and I find it to be rather valuable, a collector's item. Since I am a businessman, I cannot give you the full value, but I am willing to give you half of what I think it's worth." "$7.50? Randy asked hopelessly. Mr. Clifford ignored him and said sternly, "You may not be aware of this, but your machine is worth over $600. "Really?" Randy asked with astonishment. He knew for a fact that his father had bought it on sale at Walmart for $80. "Never doubt a man of business," Mr. Clifford said, softening his tone a bit. He handed Randy 3 crisp $100 bills. "And don't go advertising to the neighborhood that I cheated you out of a valuable piece of merchandise." Randy looked at the money in disbelief. He could hold back the tears no longer. "Thank you, Mr. Clifford," he said softly. "Thank you so much." Mr. Clifford peered at Randy once more through those purple spectacles. "Give the folks at the electric company $50, son. Give 30 to the phone company, 100 toward your rent. Then space the rest out as best you can. Come see me if your dad gets better. And come see me if he don't. You hear?" "Yes, sir," Randy mumbled. "And don't be expecting your TV to be no collector's item in a month or so. If things don't get better, you go get some help. Got that?" "Yes, sir," Randy said again. "I really appreciate this. Get out of here now." Mr. Clifford turned his back to Randy, pretending to sort through some papers on the counter. Randy walked slowly toward the door of the shop. "Thanks again," he said quietly. "I'll be back." As Randy walked into the Saturday morning April sunshine, he sighed with relief, but he knew he could no longer keep up the situation much longer. Along with food and other expenses, he knew that even Mr. Clifford's generosity would not last long. He evaluated all his options as he rode the bus downtown to the electric company. As Mr. Clifford predicted, the $50 was enough to hold the lights on for another month at most. Randy left there and walked slowly across the busy downtown street to pay the phone bill, at least a part of it. Finally, he stopped at a market and bought a few groceries and headed home to feed the cat. He made himself a fat, juicy hamburger and ate it in 3 huge bites. He burped. He plopped down on the sofa after eating and found himself talking to the cat once more. "Well, cat, I gotta get help, I guess. Dad has deserted me just like Mama did." The cat, content and full for a change, dozed near his feet. Randy mused, trying to figure out his limited options. His dad was an only child. His mother had been an only child. His grandparents were dead. He refused to call the police or a child abuse hotline, but he didn't know who else to call. A teacher? Too complicated. Bomani? He already had 10 kids of his own. He had enough problems. Randy just didn't know what to do. Randy stared at the phone. Please call, Dad. I won't be mad. Just come home. The phone, as if it had heard him, rang shrilly. Randy lunged to pick it up. Hello, he said hopefully. Hi, Randy. Even Delia's cheerful voice didn't cheer Randy. Hey, Delia, what's up? Not you. You sound down, like you're living in a pit or something. Actually, it's been a pretty good day, Randy told her. I was just thinking about getting ready for practice. Starts at 5, right? Well, that's one reason why I called. Bomani's wife called, and 4 of their kids have the chicken pox, so he's canceling practice today. Great. I mean, I'm not glad his kids are sick, but I didn't feel like the noise and funk of practice today. I got a lot on my mind. Me too, Delia said with a sigh. You know that the state test is the week after we do our projects. Why do you care about that? I hear it's pretty easy. I don't like any kind of test, and I don't do good on standardized tests. All those little blue bubbles to fill in and somebody walking down the aisles looking over your shoulder, holding on a stopwatch, freaks me out. Yeah, I feel ya, but you'll do fine. You're smart, Delia. Look what a good job you did filming us for Miss Benson's project. That was no test. That was fun. I bet we get an A on it. You got that right. Hey, Delia, what do you think the Tollivers are going to do for their project? I have no idea. Miss Benson tried to get them to tell her, but they just told her wait and see. I think Miss Benson gave the assignment before she had it all figured out. An older teacher would have made us write down what we were going to do, then approved it. Miss Benson is fine, but she's kind of dumb as a teacher, Randy said. I don't think she's dumb. She just doesn't know all the teacher secrets yet. Randy thought about his own secret that everyone was unaware of. When do the Tollivers give their presentation? Delia asked. Let's see. We do ours on Tuesday. If we finish it in time, the Tollivers will do their presentation right after us. Ought to be an interesting day. Yeah, I don't know whether to be scared or worried, Delia said. Probably both, Randy laughed nervously. How's your dad? Delia asked. He's good. Just left last night on another trip. Randy just couldn't bring himself to admit that his father had deserted him. How do you manage, Randy, being by yourself all the time? Don't you get scared or lonely? Nah, I like being alone. No one to mess with me. No one to beat me to the bathroom. I feel like I'm grown, living large. All on my own. It's great. Well, you got the large part down, Delia said with a laugh. The rest is scary to me. I ain't never been scared. Randy lied as he imagined his father lying bleeding and dead on the side of the road, or even worse, happily cooking spaghetti in a city hundreds of miles away, with no thoughts of Randy on his mind. Well, I have been, lots of times. The Tollivers scare me, tests scare me, thunderstorms freak me out, and being alone terrifies me. I'll catch you Monday. If you need to call me before then, I'll be at my dad's house. Later. Delia hung up, and Randy stared at the phone, thinking about the day, about Delia, and about his dad. He thought about real fear and how it was slipping like smoke under his door, into his space, and throughout his body. He listened to the phone click, echo, then finally beep that annoying sound to let him know he needed to hang it up. He did so slowly, and the silence of the small apartment was somehow suddenly loud and stifling. Randy ran to his room, turned his radio up loud, and fell across his bed. The music bounced off his back as he buried his head in the pillow. He fell asleep with the music echoing through the empty rooms.